In these videos, I want to help you during your revision by presenting some of the more difficult topics. But before we kind of tackle some of the harder stuff, I just want to give you a sense of how big things are in relation to each other in biology. For example, which are bigger, atoms or cells, or you know, these things tend to confuse people a lot, and it is quite important. So this video will be a little dull, but it should set the scene for some of the harder stuff to come later on. Cheers. Okay, well, to start with, you live on the Earth. Well, at least I hope you live on the Earth, and there's nothing you're not telling me. The Earth is a planet. Our planet Earth is part of the solar system, which includes the Sun and the other planets. Our solar system is itself one of about 300 billion other solar systems that together make up our galaxy. And our galaxy as well. Our galaxy is one of the bazillion, gazillion galaxies that make up the universe. That's a technical term. Don't look it up. The universe means everything, absolutely everything that ever exists. Therefore, I can't get you a picture of it because I'd have to step outside the universe. But then I wouldn't be in the universe, so the universe couldn't exist. It gets a bit messy. Suffice to say, it's really, really big. Okay, now that I've given you a kind of sense of scale as to where you are in the universe and how insignificant and small we are in comparison to everything else, we're going to start in the other direction now and start off really, really, really small and work our way up again. And we are going to kind of zoom up, if you know what I mean. We're going to start really small and work our way up. So, this adorable little puppy carrying the American flag, and this brick, and the ear with which you're listening to this, everything that has matter, everything that has stuff, is made up of atoms. There are about 120 odd atoms that we know about, and they're organized in this periodic table of elements, which I'm sure you'll know from chemistry. They're organized basically in terms of size. Hydrogen is the smallest one, then you go up to helium, number two. They're getting bigger and bigger as you go. Here we have some examples of atoms. When more than one atom binds together, like different atoms join together, they make a molecule. Now, there's a few biological molecules we're going to look at in a moment, but again, we're just starting off small and working our way up, getting bigger. So, with that in mind, here's a picture of a little Labrador. He's holding a rose, he's got a little bow tie, and he wants us to get a bit more to the point, so let's get on with it. Right, biology. Biology is the study of living things. The bio bit means anything that's alive, and the logos bit means like knowledge or studying of stuff. So let's. So we're still zooming up at the minute. Atoms combine together to make molecules, and some of these molecules are more relevant to us in biology than others. So we're going to start off with three or four of the essential ones. I'm going to start off easy and get a little bit harder. So here we've got some carbohydrates. Now, if you look at the word, it's got a carbohydrate is going to have carbon in, it's going to have some hydrogen, and the 8 bit means that it's going to have oxygen in. So a carbohydrate is made just from carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen atoms. The good thing about carbohydrates is they store lots of energy in the bonds between them. So in the bonds between the atoms, there's lots of energy stored up, which we can use. We'll come back to that later on in the video on digestion. Another type of molecule that's relevant to biology are nucleic acids. The example you probably know about is DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. And that's just one of several different types. What nucleic acids do is they pass on genetic information from one generation to the next, allowing your parents to give birth to you, and that you look a little like your parents in some way. I hope that didn't insult you. Now, much more interesting and probably my favourite type of molecule are proteins. Now, proteins are made when you join up a whole load of amino acids together. And as molecules go, they're pretty big. I mean, obviously, we're still talking molecules, they're tiny, but for a molecule, proteins are ginormous, they're absolute whoppers. And they have a massive variety in what they do, and they can be really, really interesting. Oh, before we kind of have a look at some of them, just that's a picture of an amino acid. I don't know why I put it in there. You don't really need to know that. Just need to know that proteins are made up of loads of them. Okay. We're going to look at some of the ways that proteins are used, and we're going to start off with probably the biggest one that you'll be most familiar with, as enzymes. Now, we'll be having a whole video on enzymes later on, but for now, just to kind of remind you, enzymes control a chemical reaction. You'll find them in all living cells. If a cell is alive, it's going to have an enzyme, and the enzymes will regulate a chemical reaction that happens inside that cell. I've got a little diagram here of one, and you'll probably be familiar with this. In this case, the enzyme is the kind of squiggly bit at the bottom, and the substrate, the target molecule it binds onto, is the green, also wobbly bit. In this case, the enzyme binds onto the substrate and breaks it in two. Now, that's not the only thing enzymes can do. Sometimes they can take two bits and stick them together again. For example, if you want to join a whole load of sugars together to make a starch molecule, an enzyme's your man. They'll do that as well. I don't know why I've got a picture of him. Oh yeah, because he's drooling, and drool's got amylase in. But let's keep moving. Another use of proteins is as hormones. Now, a hormone is a chemical messenger. It's produced by one part of your body, by a certain gland. Which gland it is depends on which hormone you're producing. And the hormone will go into your blood, go around your body, and when it reaches the target area, will cause it to change. It might cause, another organ to make more enzymes, or it might cause another organ to slow down its activity. It's, depending on the hormone, loads of different uses. So some common examples include the human growth hormone, which will determine how often your cells divide and how you will how you will grow as a consequence of that. Testosterone and estrogen are important sex hormones that will determine how your sexual features develop. And a kind of a common one is insulin. Insulin is a hormone which controls the amount of sugar you've got dissolved in your blood. Obviously, it's very important that your body can regulate that to keep a steady level in response to demand, and hormone helps with that. If somebody's got diabetes, they have trouble producing insulin and will have in turn trouble regulating how much sugar there is in their blood. Protein is also used as a structural component. What this means, it's used to make bits of you. For example, your hair and fingernails are made of a protein called keratin, a very tough protein. Another tough protein is used in the exoskeleton of insects. It's called chitin. And finally, if you want to build some muscle, you're going to need some muscle fiber. Again, that's made of protein. Another way that proteins are used is they're made into poison, which can be used for just generally rocking out, or for killing prey, or for deterring predators. Another use of it. So really, sorry, I got a bit carried away there during the proteins thing that often happens. So right, I better get on with it before this angry baby eats your face after crawling through the screen. They do that. So far we've talked about how atoms join together to form molecules, and there's a few relevant biological molecules. When these molecules join together, they can form cell organelles, parts of the cell that will do a job. For example, the nucleus or the chloroplasts or cell membranes. Now, a cell is made of several cell organelles working together, and we'll take this as the kind of basic building block for how the rest of the system is organized. So a cell can be specialized to do a certain job. For example, this one here is a nerve cell. A group of specialized cells that work together is called a tissue. For example, here we've got lots of different nerve cells that are kind of linked up, that work together to form nerve tissue. Your organs are made up of a whole load of tissues that will cooperate together. For example, inside your heart, it's comprised mainly of muscle tissue, but that muscle tissue has to be controlled, and that's where nervous tissue will help it to will help the muscle tissue to squeeze at the right time. So an organ is made up of lots of tissues that work together. When a group of organs work together, it's called an organ system. For example, this is a picture of, a rather gross picture of your circulatory system. Obviously, in your circulatory system, you've got your heart, but you've also got all the arteries, veins, and capillaries, the blood vessels that will transport the blood. So an organ system is a group of organs working together. When a group of these organ systems work together, like your digestive system, and your respiratory system, your breathing system, you get an organism, like this shark, tree, rose, or Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's not a tumor! Right, that's it for now. I hope this gives you a small sense of scale, like the baby. Get in, look at him there. He'd win, he'd batter you, you know it.